Today we're going to convert our turret to a more thematic turret. So let's open up our bullet object. Then we'll click on the load button. Then we'll open up the arrow.png file and close our editor. So for it to run our layout, we'll see that our towers now shoot arrows instead of blue dots. We can take the bullet object and rename that to arrow so it makes more sense in the context of our code. Then we're going to go and change our turret. So our turret, rename that to Crossbow. Double click the Crossbow object. You can open up the Crossbow 0 file for the 0 animation frame. Then we'll add a new frame. We will load our Crossbow 1 for animation frame 1. If we check our origin, it should still be in a good spot. And on frame 0, we should still have our origin in the middle, and the image point 1 from the template should be at the edge of the crossbow where it's going to shoot from. If you zoom in, you can make sure that that's in a good spot, but the default should be fine. We also want to check our bounding box, so that's the collision polygon. Frame 0 is the original collision polygon from our round turret. We zoom in a little bit, we'll see that it doesn't quite fit, so I'm going to move my corners to make sure I get the whole thing, and then I can delete a couple of the extra points by highlighting it and pressing the delete key on the keyboard. The bounding box or the collision polygon is important for being able to select this object with touch or clicks, and also to determine where you can place another turret on the game layout. So if here's my bounding box and I clicked right here on the screen, then I would be able to place another turret right here, but not one right here because it would be overlapping. You'll notice animation frame 1 is not the same, so let's go back to 0 and apply to the whole animation. So now frame 1 should have the exact same box. We'll go ahead and do the same thing with our origin. So go back to 0. The origin should be in the same spot for both, but we'll take image point 1 and apply to the whole animation as well, so that on frame 1 we also have image point 1 at the point where the arrow is going to shoot from. We can close the image editor, and then if we test that, here's what we get. Looks okay, but you'll notice that the crossbows don't really have any animation yet. So let's go and fix that. Open up the crossbow. I can change loop to no and speed to 0. Since I only have 2 frames, I don't want to have the animation handle that. I'm just going to handle the animation directly in the code. So I'm going to close that and head over to Event Sheet 1. So what we're looking for is under turret control. When the crossbow object performs a turret shoot action, currently we're spawning an arrow at image point 1, which is the point on the crossbow that the arrow shoot from. We also want to add a crossbow set animation frame to frame 0, which, if we remember, frame 0 is the fired position. So when we fire an arrow, we'll set our crossbow to look like it has just fired the arrow. Then we'll add another action under system, and this is a wait action. And the time we want to wait is dependent upon the fire rate of our crossbow. Since we will later want to be able to add the ability to upgrade our fire rate on our towers, we're going to make this a variable instead of a static number. So I'm going to take my crossbow object, and then I'm going to look for its turret behavior, and then that has a rate of fire variable under the behaviors. And then whatever that is, I'm going to divide it by 3, so that 1/3 of the time it's going to show this, and then it's going to go back to the ready animation. So right after we wait, we will set our crossbow's frame back to 1, which is the ready to frame, where the arrow is ready to be fired. If we run that, we now have a project that looks like this. That looks pretty decent, except for when we have an initial spawn of a crossbow, it looks to be in the fired position instead of the readied position. To do that, I select my crossbow object, and under properties, you may have to scroll down depending on the size of your window. You'll see there's an initial frame. We're going to set that to frame 1, so that when we run the project, the initial frame for all of our crossbow objects is the ready to fire frame. And if I were to create more, they're also in that same frame.